We are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. My dialectic method, says Madonna, is not only different from the Hegelian, but is its direct opposite. To Hegel, the process of thinking, which under the name of the idea, he even transforms into an independent subject, is the demiurgos, the creator of the real world. And the real world is only the external, phenomenal form of the idea. With me, on the contrary, the ideal is nothing else than the material world reflected by the human mind and translated into forms of thought. This was indeed Karl Marx and not Madonna. But welcome to a short, hopefully concise, expose of dialectical materialism, why we need the dialectical method with Marxism, how Marxism is a profoundly scientific method, and how we can counter liberalism and idealist philosophies. Indeed, there is a mini Lenin reacting to every single one of my videos because he is my spirit animal and he wrote one of the articles, it's a 400-page book. I want to recommend to everyone watching this, Materialism and Imperio-Criticism by Lenin. Great work. Haven't read it yet. All right. So this is important. Why? Well, obviously because dialectical materialism is the philosophical foundation of Marxism-Leninism. So Marxism-Leninism is Marxism applied in the era of proletarian revolution and imperialism. So it is founded on dialectical and historical materialism as its core philosophies, let's say. Dialectical materialism being the core one. So what's important when we discuss philosophy is the subject matter. What does it analyze? What is it concerned with? And in the case of Marxism, it is the laws of development of nature, of societies, and thought, notably. A lot of things. It really is a theory of all human society, let's say. So, to prepare myself for this, I watched Fennball's introduction to Marxist philosophy. I also read this little pamphlet. This is one of the best works you can pick up for this. It is Friedrich Engels, Ludwig Feuerbach, and the End of Classical German Philosophy. And in the chapters, you'll find very useful stuff. If I can find the chapters. Man, I'm so good. Alright, they're at the end because they wanted to be quirky in this time. So you have the timeline of Hegel to Feuerbach, the ideas of idealism and materialism, the philosophy and the philosophy of ethics and religions of Feuerbach, and then dialectical materialism, and it ends with Marx's 11 theses on Feuerbach. The 11th of which is the philosophers have only thus interpreted the world, but the goal is to change it. And this is apparently very controversial among very academic institutions that just want to give their own take on Marxism while being very, very revisionist, aka diverting from dialectical materialism. So I think I'm babbling right now. This is what I love with live streams. I can just yap and then I can cut that in a second time. So, sorry. One of the works that Fennball was recommending is the textbook that Spurkin was a Soviet philosopher who wrote a lot of articles and manuals regarding philosophy and dialectics and materialism and so on. And Spurkin defines philosophy as a special form of understanding the world, a system of the most general problems concerning being and knowledge, one form of social consciousness, part of the ideological superstructure, and reflects the interest of a specific class. And this might seem a bit loaded, But we'll see later on how this ties in with actual material conditions and class society, how philosophers don't exist in a vacuum, right? For example, if you take Plato, Aristotle, both were part of the slave-owning class in ancient Greece. They were not like a slave, they were like free citizens who could vote on things and influence concrete policy. And so they were privileged in that sense. And a lot of the time, like thinkers during the development of feudalism and capitalism were either lords, petit bourgeois, or capitalists. And in the case of Marx, well, he was very much so supported by Engels, who was himself the son of a bourgeois, and they considered it very important to use these means to actually analyze the society they lived in. So now, going back to the actual definition, like pretty much all of philosophy is concerned with like knowledge, the theory of knowledge. How do we know stuff? And how do we ensure it is close to an objective truth? And on a second time, what is being? And what is matter, what is consciousness? Is consciousness, is mind separate from matter? And is being like the act of being? Does this precede ideas? Does this precede matter? You're all gonna know where I'm going with this. So, being, epistemology, knowledge, desire, all are forms of social consciousness and are analyzed by the field of philosophy. More broadly, it's an analysis of the most general laws of the world that guide society, the universe, whatever the hell. So, philosophy, as I said, does not just encompass ideas from individuals in a vacuum, dissociated from their historical epoch and the economic base of society. So, in the same way that Marx took from Hegel's idealist dialectics that stemmed from this post-Renaissance development of capitalism, and himself saw the material conditions of the workers. The material conditions are that which influence philosophy. I don't like using the term philosophy as a broad umbrella term, but that's what I'm doing for today. So, we'll get into religion later because, like, there's a very like telling term that was used for when you combine idealism and materialism, aka like Marxism and religion, for some example, and that's eclecticism. And Marx explicitly condemned this. Engels as well. So, Marxism is a philosophy, though, refuses encompassing like physics or mathematics or like chemistry in the realm of philosophy. Not entirely, like you're gonna see Mao Zedong in On Contradiction refer a lot to chemistry, and the laws of nature themselves are very much so prevalent in dialectical materialism, but they're used more so as analogies, and how there are contradictions in pretty much everything, and that includes natural and human elements because we stem from the natural world. So, right. The task of philosophy is therefore to elucidate the universal principles of existence and thought in their development. This is again coming from Spurkin. And he expands on this by saying that philosophy is not simply a science distinct from the concrete sciences. Little note here, when we talk about philosophy as separate from sciences, we're talking about like the old school, like know-it-all motherfuckers, right? the people who were both physicians, scientists who researched stuff. Immanuel Kant himself was a scientist, though he had like very weird takes on religion and like, how do you even go about talking about Immanuel Kant? I don't like him. So, philosophy is not simply a science distinct from the concrete sciences, an extremely generalized and, moreover, higher, universally synthetic form of theoretical knowledge of the world at its key points in its relationship to man, of man to the world. I forgot a rather before the distinct here, but so yeah, right now we're approaching like the subject, what philosophy is concerned with. And the important subject matter here is the mind-body connection. Like, do we have a spirit? If we die, is there an afterlife? Is there something beyond our spirits? Where does our mind come in? Where does our consciousness lay? So, like, is our consciousness given by God? Or is it eternal, like a soul? Or is it a result of a purely chemical, like, makeup? Is matter just organized in a very complex way that makes us conscious? And something I want to stress here is that, like, something Kant wrote about is that, like, or was it Descartes? I forgot. Anyway, they all had this, like, weird conception of like humans having a soul but other animal species not having one, as if we were like one spatial creator created by God. And this presupposes notably like the existence of a God. It's an idealist framing, and the term I was looking for earlier was polymath, of course. Yeah, Pulitzer. He's the one who regarded this, of course. So, the Marxist framework of dialectical materialism is therefore the study of the motion and development of natural, social, and spiritual reality. Spiritual is used in a specific sense here. Notably, like when like Stalin talks about defining a nation in another work. This was like on the Marxism and the national and colonial question. He defines it as notably, this is just one part of the definition, a psychological makeup, like a kind of how do you call it? Like a spiritual reality, like something that is part of the superstructure. It's not like an innate idea that happens from nowhere, right? And this is precisely what philosophy is concerned with. So it analyzes the forms and methods of cognizing the world, man and his existence in the world, so related to the natural world. It evolves an integral system of views of the world, our place within it, the relationship between consciousness and matter, and so on and so forth. So a kind of like meta-analysis of the laws of the world. And this is very abstract. I feel like I'm rambling about the definition of philosophy here. So yeah, back to prior thinkers. Descartes viewed philosophy as the highest wisdom you can achieve by pure logic. Like Cartesian people are very logical, whatever the fuck that means. John Locke and Hume saw the task of it as elaborating a theory of knowledge and morality. Oftentimes, like as I said, philosophy is very concerned with knowledge itself. How do you know stuff? But also morality. And morality is a very abstract concept, and it's something a lot of us Marxists don't really touch on, because morality is a soft thing. It's hard to justify a universal moral framework that works for all epochs and is like precisely concerned with like general solid laws. Um, like, how do you define the morality of a nation's right to self-determination? It's not as straightforward as just saying you it's good or it's bad or it's evil or it's beneficial, right? You want to analyze the material impacts on people, not just like concerned moral matters that you don't even know what your moral framework is. And in this sense, there's been a lot of like moral relativists and moral objectivists, and anyway, I feel like that debate is really stuck in the world of idealism. But we'll get to this. And for Rousseau, so Jean-Jacques Rousseau, it was the inequality among people. And for Hegel, it was the highest stage of theoretical thought, the self-cognition of the absolute idea, the epoch embodied in thought. This is from Spurgeon again, but the epoch embodied in thought refers to just like a higher synthesis. And like this is one of the great oppositions that Marx had with Hegel's idealism regarding like an idealist dialectic that doesn't really have a grounding in material reality and just seeks like the final idea. This is a very simplified like analysis and portrayal of it, though. I recommend you actually read Hegel to understand this. Yeah. Ilyankov is absolutely incredibly underrated. Yes, I think I've linked it in the description. So, back to the subject matter of Marxism-Leninism. No matter how fluffed up philosophy is, it either positions itself in a debate between idealism or materialism. What happened, right? I'm gonna go off these notes for a bit. What happened in the history of philosophy? The history of philosophy itself is a great primer for all this conversation. So I'm low-key gonna reread this because I only went through a small part of it before doing this. So first thinkers were like, a lot of first thinkers were actually like materialists. They were like, they were concerned with the way that like matter, being molecules, atoms, whatever, were the basis of the universe, and we were only perceiving it. And it's a very simplified history, but later on we had like a very religious framing where God created us, and we perceived reality, and we had ideas about reality, and our perception, our spirit, our soul was primordial, and it came before material reality. And as science itself evolved, like I'm talking about the natural science and mathematics, physics, chemistry, these all were concerned with matters of the material world, the material reality. And we then had some sort of like scission with the social sciences, where social sciences often operated in very like either religious or very idealist ways. Idealism grew as a current that assumed some kind of like religious element. We're gonna get to this. So anyway, the subject matter of idealism and materialism is what is the relation between thinking and being. And as Engels said in Ludwig Feuerbach and the End of Classical German Philosophy, the answers which the philosophers gave to this question split them into two camps: those who asserted the primacy of spirits to nature and, therefore, in the last instance, assumed world creation in some form or the other, comprised the camp of idealism. The others, who regarded nature as primary, belonged to the various schools, let's say, of materialism. I didn't write down the quote properly. So, going back to science, we know that reality is fundamentally material. It precedes thought, as thoughts arise from matter. The mind is the result of complexly organized matter and stops to exist without matter. To argue otherwise is unscientific. This might seem like a bold claim, but so was the claim of the various schools of idealists. Notably, what were these goals? Sorry. Idealists who are very caught up in their idealism and think that the only world or the only reality that exists is that which they can perceive. And thing is, like, this negates the like actual concrete action on material reality. So if we seek to fix quote unquote evils, I put this in quotes because evil is a moralist framing and that's not what we're concerned with as Marxists, such as poverty, suffering, hunger, war, imperialist occupation, genocide in the case of Israel, Free Palestine. So if we seek to fix them without a materialist grounding, we seek them in consciousness and operate on a flawed moralist conception. It gives us no opportunity to determine the main directions in which social life changes. We want to change ideas, and like in the actual material world, it can be embodied absolutely in policy, but it's never actually going to change or seek to challenge the material reality, the material base, the material conditions which gave rise to these contradictions such as war, poverty, genocide, imperialism, which are contradictions that arise out of the primary contradiction of capitalism being a class struggle, the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. But we're going to get to contradictions later when aborting dialectics. And yes, Marxism is when matter does stuff. And the more matter does stuff, the more Marxism it is. And when you have a real lot of matter, that is Marxism-leninism, Maoism, Chairman Gonzalo thought, Stalinism. What else can we add on this clusterfuck? We're gonna add the Revolutionary Communist Party, the Trotskyists. We are concerned with matters of petit bourgeois Trotskyism. Okay, going back to the actual topics. Like in the idealist framing, you have like whims of people, imbeciles, great men, ideas, crazy people at the top of social hierarchies. All those exist in like this material reality. We're not denying this. Like people can be like genuine fucking morons. But it is idealism to explain social life solely and primarily on these bases. To contradict this is to assert that the materialist grounding of all natural sciences shouldn't be applied to the field of social science. It is discarding the scientific method and the analysis of matter for a revised theistic idealism which seeks truth without matter. And we also see with a lot of bourgeois thinkers the dismissal of the fundamental question of philosophy as just constructs, logical constructs that exist only in our mind, and therefore they're not worth explorating. Wow, anarcho-Marxist Lenin, Maoist, Stalinist, Hoxhaism with Mexican characteristics, my beloved. Wow. Jesus Christ. Now I know why Pol Pot did what he did. So, one of those proponents of like this move away from the question of philosophy is notable capitalist philosopher Bertrand Russell, who wrote an entire book called A Small, it's Petit Éloge. What's that in English? Like basically a book glazing anarchism, and another one when he talked about like a society that could be. I have those books with me. I can't be asked to get myself up my chair. But like in that glaze of anarchism, he had a whole chapter called Petit éloge de la petite bourgeoisie, or de la bourgeoisie. I don't remember. It was absolutely fantastic. So Bertrand Russell said, but all the attempts to do away with, in one way or another, the basic philosophical question will fall to the ground. This is not what Bertrand Russell said. I am quoting something and I don't have my glasses on. This can't be real. So, as was said in, my god, what even did I say? Sorry. FMLP. In a textbook by a Soviet press, was said, but all the attempts to do away with, in one way or another, the basic philosophical question will fall to the ground, because it is impossible to ignore the distinction between thinking and the object of thought, between sensation and that which is sensed. The motion of an object is one thing, but the object existing independently of that notion is another. So there is a difference between the subjective and the objective. What we perceive, our feeling, like if I rub myself, I feel, and there's the other act of like my other hand rubbing my fucking forearm. So there's matter that does shit, and there's you that feels it. Our consciousness is linked to the material world, and one thing I loved to argue against people who think that like we only exist in our like own consciousness and other people don't exist is like you start debating them, and mid-debate you just start like punching the shit out of them. You beat them up, and then you ask them like, am I real? Am I real to you? Is the material makeup of my fist making a good enough impact on your skull for you to realize that I am indeed real? That's how you fight idealism and liberalism. Sorry, this might be a little coarse or harsh. Merci, Anthony. Yes, a small praise of anarchism and a praise of the bourgeoisie. This is what Bertrand Russell wrote about. So here lies the subject matter, the link between the spiritual and the material. But there is a second aspect to this, which is knowability, knowledge. Here in my garage, got this new Lamborghini. Idealism and materialism, in their purest essence, are monistic. Monistic means they proceed from one definite principle. But some philosophies are dualistic and proceed from both the principles of idealism and materialism. And one of the examples is Descartes asserting that thought and matter are two separate things that exist independently of each other. And the thing is, when you assert those two things, you think that like matter and mind don't interact. And most of the time, as was analyzed by Marx, as was analyzed by Engels, Lenin, Mao, who else? All these textbooks. It paves the way to idealism. And this is what we call eclecticism, where you try to synthesize materialism and idealism, but in the end you just end up being wrong and like being a pseudo-intellectual. So it's yeah, I was talking about solipsism earlier, like when people think like they are the only ones that exist. So I think this gives us the groundwork to understand why idealism is not like a proper physical framework to change the world. if you only think that you exist in your own consciousness, in your own mind, why the fuck would you have like an incentive to change the world? If you think that ideas guide the world, why would you have an incentive to fundamentally change the material base of society? Y'all are frying me in this chat. So, to wrap up this section, if the world is material and operates on certain laws, we can study it and understand it. If it is spiritual, it won't be the case. So, materialism is inherently an argument that we can and should seek objective truth. And Immanuel Kant, positioned himself as an agnostic on the matter, as this kind of like dualistic philosopher, thinking that we could only have certain knowledge about our own mind. So the materialist truth is proven day in and day out with every new discovery and the scientific method itself. We use it for social sciences, notably, but then for a lot of for quantifying data, right? For natural sciences, we use the scientific method to discover stuff, and we analyze matter. If you go into the field of psychology, which is half concerned with the social sciences and the natural sciences, as a geographer, I hate the dissociation from natural and social sciences because it's idealist. Why do we have a split between the two when like the material and the spiritual are one of the same, and they interact and they infinitely impact each other? So yeah, through science and praxis, we can get close to an objective truth. We don't claim to know the eternal truth because that would be dogmatic. And one of the main strengths of Marxism is that it is a philosophical framework of dialectical materialism, which constantly seeks to refine and refine and refine its method and its analysis. Forgive me, I will divide the stream by yelling into the microphone. Dialectics! Alright. Let's talk a bit about dialectics and dialectical materialism. Right now, we've only had the part of materialism, and we haven't really analyzed what dialectics are. And so, if you look back at Friedrich Engels' book read here, Ludwig Feuerbach and the End of Classical German Philosophy, we see that, like, whenever we talk about Marx, there is inevitably a part where we talk about Hegel, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, who was one of the main things that Marx analyzed, right? He was in the post-Hegelians group, and then he often criticized the post-Hegelians for being too idealist and that they only concern themselves with the ideas and not actual matter and seeking only one synthesis. Anyway, so Marx took the dialectic method of Hegel, put it on its head, and that's what we're going to study in the field of dialectics. But the other guy who was very important was Ludwig Feuerbach, who gave this kind of mechanistic materialism to Marx, which Marx adapted into dialectical materialism. It's much more complicated than this, because something we always want to stress as Marxists is that our materialism is not mechanical. We don't assert that, the only thing that exists is matter, and the mind doesn't exist, and we can't affect change. No, otherwise, why would Marxism be a grounding for revolutionary change? Marxism asserts that matter affects human thought, and human thought, therefore, can affect change. And this is where we're getting into the thick of it, dialectics. In contrast to idealist conceptions of nature and knowledge, dialectics see nature as an interconnected whole, not isolated parts. It also views all matter as a constant state of change, in constant state of motion. And furthermore, change happens quantitatively until a qualitatively forward. notably the life cycle of a plant, right? If I take, for example, this Monstera minima, it starts as a seed and it germinates, and from like the accumulation of light and water, it emerges from a seed into a plant, a stalk, and then it secretes oxydes who grow this main stem, and then from there it develops more and more and more leaves, and the next qualitative leap forward from all this quantitative change from the leaves growing is, this is a bad example because this is a Monstera minima. In this case, I would be talking about a Monstera deliciosa. It grows a fruit. So that is what I am concerned with. So, contradiction is one of the more essential aspects of dialectics. They are ubiquitous parts of all phenomena. Things have within them characteristics that are mutually exclusive, notably action-reaction, the relationship between the exploiter and the exploited, and it exists from beginning to end. And in this case, not only in the case of the qualitative parts existing in quantitative changes existing within certain qualitative stages, but also forever. Contradictions exist in pretty much everything. So, as you see from this very nice drawing, this is my representation of quantitative to the qualitative, right? So contradictions are universal and particular. They're unique. And in this case, it's a process of like induction that leads to deduction of a certain like a phenomenon, and then you rinse and repeat until you achieve another synthesis, and it goes on and on. We're seeking like the next stage of development. So stages themselves are characterized by changes in the intensity of contradictions embedded into the larger one. Now, this may seem a bit abstract, but we're going to get into it. The principal contradiction, right? When this is now we're talking about the makeup of dialectics. So the principal contradiction defines other contradictions. It's the root one. The principal aspect then of the contradiction is that which dominates the dialectical relationship with another thing. Now, in capitalism, the principal contradiction is class struggle. The relationship between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Within the system of feudalism, it was the relationship between the lords and the serfs. And in slave society, we're talking about a relationship between a slave and a master. Now, when the principal aspect of a contradiction changes, so does the nature of that given thing. When the principal contradiction is not, after capitalism, is not with workers and the bourgeoisie, rather with more abstract like consciousness, when the contradiction when the contradiction of the bourgeoisie existing seeks to exist, then we have kind of changed the economic base of society. So Lenin states that there is an absolute in the relative. The totality is within the specific, and vice versa. The specific is within the totality. Now, therefore, there is a unity of opposites which don't exist without the other. There is no bourgeoisie without the proletariat, and the other way around is also true. Now, the quantitative... So much babbling, bro. The quantitative leap leads to a new contradiction, a new dialectic. There is constant non-linear motion. We're gonna see this notably with historical materialism, but like we're not concerned with like linear progress necessarily. Not everything is linear. Sometimes things go back when the gravity of a certain contradiction grows or diminishes. Then we talk about some different kind of motion. And these are not Hegelian dialectics, they are Marxist dialectics that operate on dialectical materialism, because Hegel's dialectics was idealist. He was only concerned with matters of the mind, of the thought. So Marxist dialectics operate on a materialist framework. And Althusser, Louis Althusser, not the greatest guy personally, but hey, the theory was there. He argued that Hegel's dialectics were simple, and they recognized only one idealized contradiction, the supreme. To go back to the beginning, when we talk about this, the absolute idea, self-cognition in the absolute idea. So Marxist dialectics, they recognize the essence of multiple semi-autonomous contradictions that displace each other and condense at various times, producing change through interaction or over-determination. So I have one work to recommend to grasp the actual laws of contradiction, which is Introduction to the Principles of Marxism-Leninism by José María Sison. And in there, he goes over dialectical materialism, historical materialism, political economy, scientific socialism, and then context of pre-Marxist idealist socialism. And this is always a fun read for the bus, for people to look at you like you're some kind of crazy person. They're not wrong. Incredible, incredible. So from there, we can assess three laws of dialectics. So the negation of the negation of the negation, the unity of opposites, and the quantitative change that leads to qualitative leap. The third one was very self-evident. The second was the unity of opposites. So the bourgeoisie and the proletariat don't exist without each other. We also call this the interpenetration of the contradictions. And the negation of the negation is simply that you negate a contradiction with another contradiction to produce given synthesis. Did I screw this up? Let me just re-verify this. So when looking at what José María Sison told us about, things collide with their opposites during their development. So notably, capitalism started with a process of this, not the free market, this is a very bad way to put it, but it started by clashing with feudalism. It had elements of both systems. So when we look at socialism, we're talking about a stage of historical and economic development where we are in a transition phase from capitalism to communism. Therefore, there are remnants from the capitalist society that we must struggle against. So, what is then this source of knowledge? Well, it is a social practice, and it is experiments, right? So, dialectical materialism is therefore the synthesis of a materialist grounding, a materialist philosophy, a materialist framework, and Marxist dialectics that operate on a materialist basis. So that's what we mean when we say dialectical materialism. There's much better ways to go about explaining it, and it really goes much deeper than this. As a lot of people have said, like, to actually understand this in a deep way, it's important to actually read Hegel. And this is dreadful. Now, the other part of this is historical materialism, the other important part of Marxism-leninism when it comes to philosophy and historical analysis. So, what is historical materialism? It is the application of materialist dialectics to the study of history. It is the assertion that material conditions give birth to ideas and movements, and then those ideas and movements, they impact material conditions by social change, praxis. It is a scientific tool to regard history, and materialism, therefore, does not negate the impact of man on material, but understands it dialectically. And as Marx said on the 11th thesis on Feuerbach, philosophers have only interpreted the world, but what matters then is to change it. The development of society is like economically contingent on the forces of production. Forces of productions refer right? They refer to the tools and the methods we use, either in industrial equipment, handheld artisanal tools. Do we divide labor, or are we working in a very like individual basis? Do we operate with machines? Is it simply hand tools? Are we in an agrarian society? These are questions we're concerned with. And the other part is the relations of production. So we're talking about notably the corvée, or the how do you call it? When the serfs had to like take the grain and give a tax to the lord, or in the case of the capitalists, and their relation to the workers, workers are not guaranteed a house, a living place, are not guaranteed like a life, but they are exchanged a wage, and they sell their labor power to a capitalist for a wage. So it's wage labor versus the corvée. So these are the relations of production. And here we're notably talking about like the economic base of society, the what I just explained. Jesus, it's getting hard. So eras are usually historically progressive over one another, as like there's it's flawed. Like Marx's analysis was basically primitive communism, and then was slave society, mercantilism, feudalism, remnants of all of these, capitalism. Then from there would evolve socialism, communism, right? Very not the best way to put it, right? In this case, there are very much like noteworthy exceptions. Sorry. Being that it's not linear, it's not a deterministic view, and it is something that we analyze with a dialectical scientific method. And it's not, as a lot of critics say, Eurocentric. No, Eurocentric in the sense that Marx was talking specifically about Europe because that's where he lived, that's where he worked, that's what he analyzed. But if you apply the same dialectical method to other parts of the world, then you can achieve like a scientific analysis. of history. And from this, we can also expand on like the base and the superstructure. Um, so the forces of production and the relations of production are the base, and those interact with the superstructure that are the state, media, ideology, right? All of those are impacted and influenced by the economic base, but they also impact in return the economic base. And so one thing that was very important to stress is that every qualitative leap in relations of production and in factors of production, forces of production, sorry, give the laborers or the economic class that is subordinated the means and the tools and the reasons for change. So like in the case of the capitalism, we are operating on a model of wage labor, and like there are very real reasons for change. The system itself was progressive over feudalism, but it does give by itself, in and of itself, reasons and means to change it into socialism. How is this? Because feudalism developed the material conditions for capitalism to arise, and capitalism develops the productive forces for socialism to arise. And now this is not where I want to get into Dengist nonsense, because China clearly has those factors of production down. It's no wonder that like the USSR, right? They actually had a goal in mind for the building of these productive forces, the relations of production. Not the relations of production, sorry. The forces of production, electrification, and there they achieved like full scale electrification within 8 years, and then boom, gone away with the NEP. There goes socialism. So this is a very quick analysis of materialism and dialectics, and globally dialectical materialism. So I think it's important though to stress that this is a very simple framing of it all. There are very important works in the field of like Christian theology relating to dialectics, which Marx was concerned about, that Feuerbach was concerned about. Like Christianity was the superstructure of the post-Renaissance era of Europe, yeah. All right. So from there, let me simply go fetch something real quick. Yeah. I wanted to say a few more things about it. This is the framing we need as Marxists, like actual dialectical materialism, sorry, as a framework of analysis. Because without a proper grasp of this philosophical framework, without a proper materialist grounding for our analysis of society and the relations of production and the forces of production and everything, we can really quickly fall prey to idealism and metaphysics and like very liberal framings. Like I can find some like comments which exemplifies this point, but you'll realize quickly that when people are not being materialist in their analysis, they are being like incredibly unscientific in their analysis. Sorry. So, do I have a pewter? I do not have a pewter. In the case of community comments I got, there was a recent feud in the comments between a few people right here. I'm gonna try to find it. I love scrolling down. It's really fun to scroll down. What if we went to this right here? Yep. Did the person delete their comments? That'd be foul. Come on. Don't delete comments. Yeah, there was a danged. They're trying to argue against like critiques of China, modern China, but like it doesn't operate on actual solid grounding. Okay, so like there was this comment that really pissed me off from someone called P Nice. Oh my god. If you say it in French, it's P Nice size. See, this is a problem with ML. You have developed a personality cult around a man who died quite nearly a century ago. The regime he would create ultimately lives on in Putin. This was commented on, like, I'll show you. Yeah. This. Lenin going back to Petrograd. And, like, if you have an actual analysis of history that's grounded in, like, a scientific materialist method, you're like, yeah, like the material conditions in Russia were fucking dire. And you understand what the Bolsheviks did, and you understand what they were, and you understand the philosophy behind it. Like, I asked this person, like, did you learn your history from PragerU? What do you mean a personality cult? This is unscientific. You don't understand what you're talking about. Really, it's a really fucked up way to put it. This person says, my god, they're talking about Lenin as a dictator, which is very, like, stupid. A very stupid way to put it. I'm sorry, I'm really... Like, okay, here's the framing it ends up being all the time. Talking about authority as something that is, like, eternal and dissociated from the superstructure in the base. Authority as a mystical concept. These people operate on pure metaphysics. Liberal, happy fun, la la la. For them, everything is authority and what else? Big government, right? And it doesn't have an actual, like, analysis of the base of society. What are the relations of production? They can't tell you. They talk about like Soviet state enterprises as exploitative and na. But do they not realize that the goal of these very state enterprises was a transition away from capitalism and into a model that had a planned production where people were not exploited for their labor, but they received not the full value of it. Marx talked about it in the Critique of the Gotha program. This would be a revisionist way to put it, but they received most of the value of the labor they produced. They received a wage in labor hours, and there was a surplus created, taken by the state to fund all of these public services. A very simple way to put it. In a capitalist system, wage exploitation exists to effectively enrich a boss, to be a source of wealth accumulation for the bourgeoisie. And to not have any analysis of this is undialectical, it's on Marxist, it's on materialist, it's pure idealism. Pure ideology, as the piper of the court jester, Slavoj Žižek would say. Yeah. So, it also brings me to a quick rant about like how liberals operate. For them, everything is in a vacuum. Nothing ever stems from history, from material development, right? Like it's a kind of fucking idiots who think that World War One erupted because someone shot Duke Ferdinand. Like this is not what happened. There were actual like concrete material reasons why this war happened. And this was a war for the division of the global south, of the rest of the imperial periphery between the nations of the imperial core, where Germany wanted a bigger slice of it because they got kind of late to the party the first time. And World War II was a crisis of capitalism erupting from the material conditions of Germany and of Europe, because it erupted not even a decade after the Great Depression, within a very like real recovery. And yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, yes, why do they see history and as like acts of individuals when you can have like a proper systemic analysis, a framework, which you can then use to change, like in a concrete manner, society? And right now, what we're seeing is like a very dire material conditions for fucking hell for a lot of people. But the thing is, like, uh, in a lot of fucking places, right? For white labor aristocrats, I'm not excluding myself in this. Conditions are pretty alright, but the system of Marxism-leninism is not only concerned with like direct material conditions of people, but with contradictions inherent to the system. So the primary contradiction right now is the relationship between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, and we see this between in like the stark divides between the opinions of the population in notably fucking all the Arab states, where the leaders are like cocks to Israel, while most of the population, like the proletarians, though it's proletarian here is kind of a iffy term because like there's a lot of royal families and the likes, but people who work for wage who don't operate, not who operate, but who don't own the means of production, right? People whose interests are not represented by this Arab vassal states of Israel. They don't like Israel. They don't want this fucking war. They don't want to like go to war against Iran. So we're also seeing the exacerbation of these conditions where war imperialism are going full the fuck on. We are seeing like a massive destruction, massive scale destruction of oil refineries, oil reserves, schools, infrastructure, hospital. Now they're threatening to like destroy desalination plant in Iran. It really is so dire. So we're seeing like very exacerbated material conditions, which erupt in global conflict, and like this might just be one of the historic moments where decades happen within weeks. Do we actually have updates from this? Fuck. Israeli occupation of Lebanon, of course. Drones interrupted, and Trump saying the US will be leaving Iran in 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, the US is absolutely like fucked right now. They don't have the capacity to invade Iran. For the last 20 years, Iran's been like preparing for this, stocking up on like actual munitions and working with China to actually like build up military capacity. It doesn't fucking improve the material conditions of people, and all at the same time you have a theocracy that does not operate on a progressive goal, to say. Anyway, yeah. And like regarding like concrete actions we can take right now, like fucking, yeah, you know what to do. But also, yeah, May Day is coming soon. In a month, we're getting prepared here too, for a labor strike. Like right now in Quebec, we're seeing a few strikes going on, notably in the field of community work. I hope it can escalate to something quite bigger. I do hope so. Would be very nice. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. We have to be organized. We have to join a party. We have to actually stay connected to the masses and connect yourselves to the masses primarily. Yeah. Is there something else I wanted to talk about here? I think political economy would be fun to cover next time, but like as I said, like this is really just my learning as we go, my revising of theory, revising not in the sense of revisionism, but just like strengthening the fundamentals, you know. I can't read my own writing. This is from 6 years ago. I wrote a whole shtick on anarchists and like idealism. Oh no, I wrote some deprogrammed dingus nonsense in there. Ain't no way. Oof. Better than anarchism, but wow. Wow. Also, look at these. Like, I started keeping these little notebooks. I have like my membership cards for the communist parties. I've hung around. This is like my quick notebook for like readings I'm doing. This one is more concerned with like keeping track of habits and shit. What else do I have? I bought 2 new ones. They make me happy. Just little notebooks. They're like $3 each, and they're just the perfect size. I really love them. I don't like endless consumerism, even though I'm guilty of it myself. But fuck these notebooks. I love writing stuff down. Like just. Oh yeah. Alright. So yeah, I thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the video on land acknowledgements. I'm gonna do like a more proper one right now, but I have add a few more thoughts on it, and I'm going to spend a bit more time writing this. I have a little fear that the channel is gonna slow down a lot because I'm not actively working on a video right now. Like the last one was 2 weeks ago. Like the actual proper one was 2 weeks ago. How workers got the first human rights. This one flopped hard, but the thing with the rest of the videos is like they're pretty much timeless as long as we're in this era of capitalism. But like what I'm running out of is like actual concrete video ideas of things I am actually knowledgeable of. This is something I need to work on to actually like start researching the likes of, yeah. And furthermore, something I want to like actually work on is like get my stream schedule worked out. I realized that when we do it on like Tuesday nights, don't get me wrong, I love that you're all here. We're right here. We have like 19 concrete viewers. When we streamed on like weekend and actually just when it's during the daytime, we're looking at like 40 viewers at the same time, which is pretty incredible. I just I need to find something concrete to work on. But right now it's decolonization, because I think it's a very important and actual subject. Like some socialism 101 regarding political economy, but Finnish Bolshevik has all that covered already. Really, I think I need to focus on the actual reading myself. Yeah, but the problem is like I did give in to slop by actually like watching one of these slop videos last time, but like why do these streams keep getting like that many views when I'm watching slop, and when I actually put effort into content, it doesn't get that much traction. These last few like actually research videos, 2,300 views, 10,000 views. The other ones took like a few years to reach 4,000 or 5,000. And then I do one fucking stream on Bad Mouse because he's a stupid dumbass. I'm gonna be more respectful from now on, because Bad Mouse is arrogant and idealist. It got 3,000 views, and then because Anarch, bro, this guy is pushing 40 years old, and he's still doing his pseudoscientific BS of like looking up Wikipedia articles and compiling the data, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. He has an idealist understanding of history, of the world. He frustrates me. How are you 40 years old and you're still this infantile in your conception of the world? 2,800 viewers reacting to his shit, and then 1,900 reacting to some doom slop. Yeah. And this is something Bad and Panetta talked about recently. I mean, no, that was like 4 years ago. How you can spend a lot of time on like actually researching videos, but it takes you a while, and then it gets pushed out to a small audience. But if you stream and you post these stream clips all over the place, you're gonna get a shit ton of views. You're gonna get monetized and everything, and like you're got much more rewarded for doing slop and for giving into like actual just entertainment than actual concrete political theory. Yeah. The people yearn for slop. Like, what is this? I'm gonna start like making a tung 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 sahur like educational dialectic videos with like Family Guy and Subway Surfers in the background when we're talking about like fucking primary contradictions of capitalism. Yeah. By the way, thanks Zafir for the channel subscription. Yeah, that's something I wanted to touch on. Like, I got monetized. The channel right now is like a YouTube partner. We got all the little perks set up. if you're gonna like contribute to the channel, don't do it through YouTube. They take like a 30% cut. If you donate directly on Buy Me a Coffee, I don't know why you do this, but like I'm gonna spend it on communist posters and propaganda for my local organizing efforts. But I do have the 4,000 hours of watch time to actually monetize stuff after this. And like I think like 99% of the channel is gonna get completely fucking demonetized because I'm advocating for like revolution. I'll be right back. I'll just mute my microphone. I have something. All right, I'm back. Sorry, people. Is this the gain or the input? Yeah. Yeah. I have another speedkeeping community stuff going on after this at 10:05 p.m. Like, hmm. Yeah, something I really love with this audience right now is that I can engage with you all, and I think that's the the good stuff with like having an actual principled stance. Less people like engage with you, but like so be it. You actually have good interactions, and don't get me wrong. There's a lot of bad interactions, a lot of like reactionary slob, anarchists, or people who have like people who don't watch the content and who just comment some bullshit without actually doing any research. People who talk upon matters before investigating them, and this is absolutely abhorrent, and it makes me so annoyed. Like one of the things I want to stress it, please, can we stop demonizing actual discourse? Can we stop the descent into anti-intellectualism? Can we actually promote knowing before speaking? Thank you. So on this note, it's a shorter stream than usual, but I think that will do for tonight. I have some other stuff to get to. And I thank you all for coming to this. If you have any other ideas for what I should cover next, content suggestions, because it's always fun to react to some slop, then put it down in the comments. So yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Han.